Department Captain James Beasley, Long Beach Police Deputy Chief Campbell, as well as Sergeant Bradley Johnson, and finally Linda Lopez from the Los Angeles Office of Immigrant Affairs, representing the Mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, for their participation here today. Local law enforcement plays the most critical role in maintaining the safety of our communities, and I'm very grateful they, along with law enforcement officials across California, recognize the value of working with and protecting all of our communities, including our immigrant communities. Under constitutional threats from a reckless Trump administration, Senate Bill 54 protects our local law enforcement and the resources that they need to keep our communities safe. Because we stood up to the Trump administration's threat with an aggressive defense of our immigrant communities, Attorney General Sessions has had to narrow his definition of a sanctuary city. His plan to punish so-called sanctuary cities by withholding federal grant dollars has been rejected by a court of law. Still, our local law enforcement officers are under threat of being commandeered into the president's deportation forces. Senate Bill 54 will protect local police against a federal overreach that would have forced them to enforce immigration laws instead of carrying out the everyday duties that keep our communities safe. It will ensure that the local law enforcement dollars, personnel, and other resources will not be squandered to tear families apart and deport otherwise law-abiding mothers, fathers, and their children. Police chiefs across the nation believe that enlisting local police to enforce immigration law is a bad idea. Under Senate Bill 54, local police officers will maintain the trust of immigrant communities that has been carefully nurtured, a trust that is so important to our safety. Here in Los Angeles, the fear of deportation has resulted in a 25% drop in sexual assault reports since the beginning of 2017. Domestic violence reports have fallen by 10%. These alarming statistics highlight the importance of clearly distinguishing law enforcement operations from those of federal immigration enforcement in order to maintain the trust, the ultimate goal of Senate Bill 54. This measure will also ensure that schools, hospitals, and courthouses remain safe and accessible to all Californians by limiting immigration enforcement on their premises. Now let me be very clear. Senate Bill 54 is not about safeguarding criminals. In fact, it will ensure that dangerous criminals serve their full sentence in California. Having ICE pluck criminals out of jail and send them across the border or wherever they came from, only to come right back endangers our communities. We are focused on arresting dangerous criminals, prosecuting them, and imprisoning them, not engaging in criminal dumping and letting them avoid prosecution just to come right back to our neighborhood and prey on our residents. We all agree, we do not want dangerous criminals in our communities. That's why Senate Bill 54 allows local authorities to respond to ICE inquiries about convicted, serious, or violent offenders and turn over to ICE any of those violent offenders who have illegally re-entered the country. State prisons will be required to give ICE a 60-day notice before the release of serious or violent offenders. ICE will have access to any targeted individual in custody with a judicial warrant. Now we'll continue to hear any concerns from our law enforcement community to make sure that this law is passed. Ladies and gentlemen, last week we heard a stunning admission from ICE's acting director. Robert Homan's testimony before a House subcommittee was as blunt and revealing as it was heartless and also bigoted. To him, all undocumented residents are a threat to public safety. And he said, if they haven't committed a crime yet, they will. To him, mothers and fathers are perpetrators, And when ICE shatters a family, tearing mother away from child, or deporting a family breadwinner, ICE isn't to blame. It's the fault of the perpetrator, Holman said, and that's a quote. If that wasn't enough, he threatened all residents, saying, and quote, "If you are in this country illegally, you should be uncomfortable. You should look over your shoulder, and you need to be worried." During President Trump's first 100 days, arrests of residents with no criminal record jumped 150% to the same period last year. Director Homan's comments underscore the urgent need to pass Senate Bill 54. We will protect those who have contributed to making California the 6th largest economy in the world. And we will not be intimidated by the Trump administration's gun-to-head method to undermine the fundamental values that make our state and nation great. Gracias por estar aquí hoy día y por su interés en este tema de gran importancia. Que quede muy claro, no permitiremos que la administración Trump siga amenazando con castigar a las llamadas ciudades santuarios, deteniéndolos los fondos federales. Mediante el proyecto, la SB 54 protege a la policía local contra las acciones del gobierno federal, que nos obliga a implementar las leyes migratorias en lugar de realizar sus deberes, manteniendo segura a nuestras comunidades. Esta administración está enfocada en justificar una deportación masiva, inhumana y contra un precedente, destrozando a las familias trabajadoras. Que quede muy claro, yo estoy en solidaridad con las familias que, pese a su miedo, están alzando sus voces y contando sus casos de injusticia. La retórica repugnante que sigue emanando de Washington en contra de los más vulnerables no nos detendrá. El director de la agencia de migración ICE, Robert Holman, hizo un devastador comentario. Para él, todo residente indocumentado es una amenaza a la seguridad pública. Y si no han cometido un crimen aún, lo harán en el futuro no muy lejano. Los comentarios del director Holman subrayan la urgencia de aprobar la 54. Queda muy claro y quiero enfatizar y subrayar lo siguiente. Vamos a seguir trabajando para hacer todo lo posible para defender las comunidades más marginadas de este gran país. With that, I want to thank you for attending this press conference, and I'm very pleased to introduce the former Attorney General of the United States of America. He is my friend, he is my partner, he is my legal counsel for the California State Senate, no other than Eric Holman. Thank you, sir.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm honored to be here today with Senate President Pro Tem Kevin De León, Los Angeles Police Chief and friend Charlie Beck, and other top law enforcement officials from across the state of California. We're here with a very clear purpose, to underscore the undeniable truth that preserving and enhancing trust, real, genuine trust between law enforcement and the diverse communities that they serve is really essential for the safety and well-being of all residents of this great state, indeed of this great nation. California is leading. California is doing the right thing. This is something that needs to be done nationwide. Now, as the former Attorney General of the United States, I know from experience that immigrants, even when they are victims of crime or witnesses to criminal acts, often fear interacting with local law enforcement officers when those officers also engage in federal immigration enforcement. Rather than report a crime or testify in court, they stay quiet and out of sight because they fear that reaching out to law enforcement, even to volunteer their help, could lead to being placed in removal proceedings and torn away from their families, their jobs, and their entire lives here in the United States. That means more crime, it means more victims, and it means not fewer. Now think about that for just a minute. A society where the most vulnerable among us live in constant fear of being ripped away from their children, their spouses, their homes, and their lives here, just because they reached out to law enforcement officers sworn to protect our communities. That hurts all of us, regardless of our immigration status. Now, earlier today, I sent a memorandum to Attorney General Sessions regarding the California Values Act, Senate Bill 54. My colleagues from Covington and Burlington and I have carefully analyzed this legislation, and we have concluded that it is constitutional and that it is not preempted by federal law. It is constitutional. Our legal analysis is comprehensive and it is clear. Under the United States Constitution, states have the power over the health and safety of their residents and the allocation of state resources. Now, despite statements from the Trump administration suggesting that laws similar to the California Values Act are somehow unconstitutional, the Act is a core exercise of California's authority. In other words, it is California's prerogative to devote its limited resources to protecting the health and safety of California residents, and not to divert those resources to do the federal government's job. For this reason, neither Congress nor the President may require California to redirect its resources to enforcing federal immigration law. Now, I commend the law enforcement officials who are here today and those others who support this important piece of legislation. Instead of proposing policies that sow distrust between California residents and law enforcement officers, the California Values Act would ensure the well-being of all California residents. This, as I said before, should be a model for states and cities throughout our great country. Now I'd like to introduce Chief Beck.
Well, I'm honored to stand here with the Senator De León and our former Attorney General and other representatives of law enforcement to support SB 54. For almost 40 years, the Los Angeles Police Department has adhered to Special Order 40. Special Order 40, as most Angelinos understand, was developed so that the Los Angeles Police Department would not be an arm of civil immigration enforcement. And for the past 4 decades, for almost my entire time and tenure as a Los Angeles police officer, these have been our core values. That the Los Angeles Police Department vigorously enforces criminal laws, particularly those that have to do with violence, but that we do not enforce civil laws, particularly civil immigration laws. The Attorney General and the Senator were eloquent in the reasons why. We do not want to dilute trust, because we believe that trust is the most important thing in policing. The ability to get witnesses to come forward, the ability to get victims to come forward, the ability for neighborhoods to thrive because they believe in law enforcement and believe in each other, can be severely detrimented by civil enforcement of immigration by local authorities. The California Trust Act, and again, the SB 54, California Values Act, is absolutely consistent with the values of Los Angeles Police Department. I want to thank Senator De León and his staff worked closely with mine to ensure that all law enforcement concerns were addressed, that we could still concentrate on people who are violent criminals who also happen to be illegal immigrants. And if necessary, use that illegal immigration status as a way to remove them from our society. This is very important. This is not a soft on crime bill. This is not an anti-law enforcement bill. This is a bill that displays courage, the courage of Californians, the courage of Angelinos to understand that when we stand together, we are much more effective than when we stand apart. We depend on our communities, particularly our immigrant communities, to cooperate with us, not only to keep them safe, but to keep all of you safe. Without that cooperation, we all suffer. This bill has addressed all of our concerns. I believe that it not only represents California's values, but my own values and the values of Los Angeles Police Department throughout 40 years of history. And I'm proud to be here to make that statement today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlie, for your eloquent words. Thank you very much, Eric, as well. Next, we have representing the mayor as well as the interim chief of police of the great city of Sacramento. We have Sacramento Police Department Captain James Beasley. Captain.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on behalf of the great city of Sacramento. So in Sacramento, we simply do not enforce federal immigration law. It's not the job of my department, or really a local municipal police department, to do so. We have a duty to protect and serve all of our community members. To engage in immigration enforcement would seriously impair our ability to do so. And to a very large degree, police work is about trust. We rely on the trust of the community to report crimes and to partner with us to successfully prosecute those responsible for criminal activity. We value that trust, and if we lose it, and lose the cooperation of our community, we cannot operate effectively as a police department. When local police enforce immigration laws, or if there was the perception that local police would enforce immigration laws, they could rapidly lose the trust of the community and especially the undocumented people that we serve. Crimes may go unreported for the fear of deportation. Criminals may not be apprehended. More victims may suffer. Quite simply, our communities may well become less safe and not more safe. SB 54, the California Values Act, will prevent state and local law enforcement agencies from acting as agents of the immigration and customs enforcement. Sacramento in many ways is no different than many other cities in California. We face severe budget challenges and we're responsible to provide services to all of our residents. We do not have the resources to spare when it comes to enforcing immigration laws. SB 54 is an important measure that will make sure our local tax dollars are used in the best way possible to protect all the residents of Sacramento. And to that end, we will leave the enforcement of immigration laws to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Captain. I also want to acknowledge the presence representing the police chief of the great city of Long Beach, as well as the Mayor Robert Garcia. We have us here today. We have the Deputy Chief, Mr. Jason Campbell. We also have here Sergeant Bradley Johnson, again representing the Chief of Police of the City of Long Beach, and the Mayor of the City of Long Beach, Mayor Mr. Robert Garcia. Last but not least, we have with us Linda Lopez. Ms. Linda Lopez, Dr. Linda Lopez, is representing the Office of Immigrant Affairs for the City of Los Angeles. Is also here in representation of the Mayor of the City of Los Angeles, Mr. Eric Garcia. Ms. Lopez.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to give me to be here. I'm Linda Lopez, Chief of the Office of Immigrant Affairs, and representing Mayor Eric Garcetti, who is unable to be here today. Senator De León, thank you for bringing us all here today and for your leadership on SB 54. I also want to thank former Attorney General Holder and Chief Beck and everyone here today representing law enforcement. We are here today with a single unified message. No one should have to live in a state of constant fear. Everyone should feel comfortable approaching law enforcement for help, and all people should have their rights protected. For almost 40 years, as Chief Beck has described, the Los Angeles Police Department has followed a policy of not initiating contact with people solely for the purpose of determining their immigration status. Because if any immigrant, undocumented or otherwise, is afraid to approach law enforcement out of fear of being asked about their immigration status, arrested, or turned in, it erodes our public trust that is essential to all of our safety. We don't want a grandmother scared to report a crime because she's afraid of being deported. Victims of domestic violence or victims of other serious crimes are not only denied justice when they don't report it to the police, they're denied the chance to make all of us safer by helping get dangerous criminals off the streets. And that's why Mayor Garcetti signed an executive directive in March to expand our long-standing policies to reaffirm that LA's officers will never act as federal immigration agents. It's why the mayor has led to share best practices with mayors and police departments across America. And it's why we're here all standing today this morning, because here in Los Angeles and California, we're going to stand up and speak out for the values of inclusiveness, equal justice, and due process. We're going to work with cities and counties up and down the state to preserve our collective identity as a welcoming haven to all people from corners of the world. And at a time when action at the federal government is causing great anxiety, uneasiness in our immigrant communities, people should know that their state and local governments are doing everything possible to make them feel safe. Drawing and preserving on that distinction is important. That's why we support SB 54, and why we are so grateful to the Senator De León, and the other leaders here today for all of their efforts to safeguard our immigrant communities and keep families together. Ahora voy a decir unas palabras en español. Buenos días, mi nombre es Linda López, soy la jefa de la Oficina de Asuntos Migratorios aquí para el alcalde Eric Garcetti en Los Ángeles. Quiero agradecer primeramente al senador de León y gracias por la invitación y su liderazgo con SB 54. Gracias al ex fiscal Eric Holder y también al Chief Beck de la Policía de Los Ángeles. El mensaje de hoy es muy simple. Nadie en nuestra ciudad y en nuestro estado debe de tener miedo, y especialmente la comunidad de inmigrantes aquí en la ciudad y en el estado. Apoyamos a esta legislación porque es importante proteger a nuestra comunidad y mantener a nuestras familias juntas. El alcalde apoya esta legislación y es por eso que estamos aquí hoy en día, en esta mañana, para apoyar a esta legislación. Muchísimas gracias.
Okay, now we will go to Q&A with members of the press.
I'd like to ask a question specifically about, you mentioned 150% increase in the people who were arrested, I would assume as a result of a lot of the raids that we saw since January, who did not have any criminal record other than being here without the proper documentation. How do we know that that wouldn't increase when you've got the Sheriff's Association saying that ICE is going to have to send out people into the community, and as a result of that could have some extra collateral arrestees?
Well, I have a news flash for you as well as for others throughout the country. That's already happening right now as we speak. It's been happening before the extraordinary executive orders. The reality is this, is historically, in a bipartisan fashion, then President Barack Obama, as well as George W. Bush, Democrat and Republican, have focused almost primarily on criminal felons with serious and violent felonies convictions. That has changed in a very extraordinary fashion, so therefore you see 150% increase without this measure even being codified into law, being signed into law by the governor of California. So that is happening right now as we speak. In my district alone, your news outlet has reported, as many others, we had a father who was dropping off his daughter off at a high school in my district in Highland Park and was picked up as well. We have dreamers who are being picked up. So on one end, we hear the Secretary of Homeland Security as well as the ICE director saying one thing, but what's happening out in the field is another thing. So my point to your point is that it's already happening right now as we speak. Respect very much the Sheriff Association. We're continuing our dialogue and I think very fruitful conversations with them, but it's happening right now as we speak. And we don't see no reason why it's going to happen with the current administration. It's going to stop with the current administration.
If I can add just one point, because obviously I've had discussions with local ICE counterparts, and I've asked them directly, well, if we were to allow access, then would you cease street enforcement? And the answer is no, they will not. And as much as I work with our local federal partners, I do not believe that they will stop getting direction from their national offices to increase street enforcement. And that is what we have seen. Had they been willing to limit their enforcement,